are back with Christopher Phillips. Now, Christopher, for the audience, you guys, this probably isn't going to be the funniest interview you've ever seen, but this is important that we talk about this stuff, and I am very lucky to have Chris on the show because he was so close to this stuff. So I want to get into this because I think the events that happened are so important to Ferguson in St. Louis. One of the gentlemen that you interviewed, that you talked to, he said, "I wish we could have gone about it a different way," and that was in reference to the riots that occurred in Ferguson. Just as citizens, what do we do when we want justice? We want that we've got that pent-up anger over something. We want justice. How do we go about it? What do you think?
I mean, it's really not for me to tell people exactly how to channel.
Sure.
There's different ways that you can do it. I mean, you can do it at the ballot box. You can organize. You can, sometimes it starts with the conversation. I think when he was talking about it going about it a different way, that was my neighbor. Mm-hmm. So what happened is what he was referring to is the fact is that as a result of that happening, a lot of the community was destroyed, like the resources. Right. I mean, I had a really shallow moment where one day I was going to try and get some tire cleaner for my car, and I'm like, man, the O'Reilly's is burned down, the AutoZone is burned down, Advanced Auto. I was like,
yeah,
can't even clean my tires now, But I mean, that's the smallest of all the issues. But I mean, really, a lot of it is, and what the film is aiming to do is to talk about the serious issues. Like in this state, in this country, we have still deep-seated issues with race, and that is the epicenter of a lot of things. And one of the things that has started this whole problem and I think continues on is that we have systemic issues with our local government and even with law enforcement. And a lot of those things need reform, and some things just need to be flushed out, and I really think
brought to the attention.
And I think, the scary thing that I think people don't realize is that nowadays in the age of the cell phone video, we're seeing the Eric Garners getting choked out and, Laquan McDonald getting shot 16 times, but think about all those times where there wasn't a phone present or when the technology wasn't available. How many of these situations have been overlooked, swept under the rug? That they've been
just started to do that.
There's probably tons of cases out there where somebody got off unjustly because of this.
And even when there is a camera there, it doesn't matter almost. It's still no justice.
And that's the frustrating thing. And I think that's what people need to understand is that when these people, what I'm trying to do is really bring another perspective that hasn't been talked about. And these activists and protesters, they're people, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're filmmakers, you know what I mean? And they're out there and they're not out there for no reason. It's because people keep dying, you know what I mean? And it continues to happen. And then when you see somebody get off, even though the facts are there and even in Chicago, you have all the dirty cover-ups and things like that, that's why people are still, out there in those streets, They
still want that justice. We recently celebrated MLK Day. I recently had a conversation with my 3.5-year-old daughter. She wanted to know why we're having MLK Day. And so I explained to her what equality meant, and she still doesn't, she can't wrap her head around, I get what it means to be equal, but I don't understand why somebody would want to kill the person who wants everybody to be equal. And she can't understand that, and she still, every day, she asks me again today, what was the name of the man who made us equal, and why did that man have to do that? And so there's still explaining that equality is still something that we're struggling with in America and that we still need to deal with. In St. Louis especially, how do you see us improving from here? What do you see us doing to get to that point?
I mean, a lot of it, like I said, is that we still have not come to terms that there is a problem. The beautiful thing is that your daughter does get it because, you understand it and you appreciate it, and that's the good thing. So you've passed that on to her. Sure. But there are people here that still do not want to have that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then there's some out there.
So you think it maybe starts at a young level? Maybe that's
it starts in a young level, but then a lot of times people avoid the topic itself, and they're really they're looking at it as a isolated situation, not understanding that when we have problems with race and when me and you can't sit and talk together, you know what I mean, that it affects all of us, you know what I mean? So that's the part of it is we have to really face those issues. And so really what my film is meant to do is to bring that to the surface and really dive into not just Michael Brown's murder, but the systemic issues that are occurring, that are affecting us all.
They're telling me no time. I'm getting a no time flash, but I really don't care because this is important to talk about. So I'm sorry, but we're gonna take our time.
Right on.
So the making of Ferguson 365, there were glimpses that you showed us that were hopeful. You showed us the quick trip that did burn down. The Urban League has since built on that site, and Centene has put up a building there. And so there are these hopeful things for the St. Louis region. Is there anything else while you're making this film and that you saw that gave you hope for Ferguson and also just St. Louis in general?
Well, I think one of the things that I showed in my viral piece that was Ferguson 100 Days, 100 Seconds is really the unity that has come out of this, because these protests and the activism hasn't just been African Americans, it's been people of different races, nationalities, creeds, sexual orientations. All these people have come together because they understand that this is a problem that affects us all. That's the beauty of it. And then I've also seen that amongst these activists that are out there, that there's really a sense of community and family that even goes beyond the Mike Brown situation. You know, I've been out there, we fed the homeless. They've actually catered and done repasses for people that have lost their children. You know, these are your Ferguson protesters and your activists doing these things that, you know, they're not talked about on CNN.
And there's a shot, a beautiful shot in the film where they're painting after it, and it's just, I mean, all colors of hands, just paintbrushes going up and down.
Absolutely, and that's the beautiful thing is that people have come from all over the world. I've seen them because, you know, I would leave from my house and go to work, and then I'm like, oh, it's a group of people from Pakistan. You know, how y'all doing? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I've met people from Ireland, England, everybody's come all over the world. So I think that this is something that is being recognized globally, and the way that it is uniting people is a good thing.
Well, I mean, it's such a terrible event, a tragic event. Hopefully, now we can be the spark, the catalyst to begin change, not only within St. Louis itself, but also, like you said, globally. Maybe it could start here and change, and we can bring
it already
true
has.
Equality.
It already has. I think, you know, when you look at these other cases that have happened in these other cities, you know, it always points back to Ferguson. So St. Louis has this opportunity to be an example for people going forward, because, you know, even those other cases, you know, you don't hear about them, but people always reference Ferguson.
So fuck being about the St. Louis Rams anymore. Let's be about equality, huh?
Yep.
Chris Phillips, everybody. We'll be right back with So Many Dynamos. See the film.